Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast. So today we have Marilyn, we have
Dilly.
And I'm Faith.
and today we're gonna be looking at mental health. But before we dive in, I'm gonna ask you guys something. I'm gonna ask you about your favorite Christian meme because I think that's pretty popular. So shall I start with mine?
Go for it.
I mean, I think I showed you guys my favorite meme last time, but this one where it says youth leaders watching students destroy each other in a camp game that has no prize.
Yeah, that's you.
We do this in like English Bible study where we play games and then every week someone says, "Oh, we'll bring a prize," and then no one brings a prize, but they still.
I'm still waiting for my £10.
Anyway,
Oh my god, I forgot that happened, you know? I forgot that.
swiftly
I remember.
moving on from that.
You
I
know
don't
who
have
you
my
are.
meme.
Oh, so
Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you're gonna do it.
So for me, my favorite one, let me turn up my brightness here, is it's more of a reaction thing. Whenever someone does something out of pocket, or I view out of pocket, I send this one that's just, it looks like Jesus with the phone saying, "Start the rapture." Because I'm done. I want to leave this world. I don't want anything else to do with this.
I think Jesus does that a lot, and then God's like,
Yeah.
calm down,
Yeah.
not now. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy that because it is quite fun to share the like Christian memes. Some of them are a bit wild though. I'm not gonna lie. When I see them, I'm like, ooh, okay, next thing.
Sometimes they hit.
Yeah, they do.
I'm just like, never mind.
Okay, so mental health. Faith, do you want to give us a little bit of your background about why we've invited you specifically?
Okay, yeah, so, I mean, I came here from Canada, if you can't tell from the accent. And I'm here to do my master's, specifically in child and youth mental health, over at UCL with Anna Freud. So,
Very interesting stuff. Yeah, I have a degree in psychology and counselling, and
Dilly?
I mean, mine's quite useless. It's engineering, but I'm just here.
she's a Christian. And
So,
so,
yeah, I'm here just to represent Christ.
Yeah, her
that's
input's
mental health.
important.
For mental wellness, so you don't have to be in psychology to talk about it.
No, exactly. I think we all go through times of mental health. We go through something to do with mental health. I think everyone does, but it's whether people actually recognize that it is mental health, or if they just say, "Oh, it's just a mood," and just
Yeah.
you know. But I think like the first thing that we wanted to talk about was the feeling of being burnt out. Have you guys ever felt burnt out?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, in a lot of scenarios.
But specifically as a Christian, in your walk with Christ, have you felt burnt out?
Yeah, I would say for sure. Like a couple years back, I didn't realize I was burnt out at the time, but I had been pushing myself both in church activities because I love being involved in ministry. So I'm on the worship team, I'm in Sunday school, I'm helping out with our youth ministry, as well as trying to apply for jobs, applying for masters, doing all of that. And I didn't realize how bad it got until it was essentially like my body shut down. So I had crazy joint pains. I couldn't actually do anything. And it reached a point where it's like I had to step back from a lot of things because I couldn't hold a cup up because it would just cause so much pain. And it was on that kind of forced me to rest for a couple months before I could actually get back to doing the things I need to do. And at the time I was like, this is a trial. This is something I shouldn't be going through. I didn't recognize it for what it was, but looking back, I can see the build up to it. So yeah, that was
Do you often find yourself blaming the enemy as well? Like, this is the devil's work.
100%.
The devil's sitting there like, this is not me.
Yeah, it's like, this is not.
You're your own worst enemy.
Yeah.
This was one of those things where I'm like, no, this is not me. 'Cause I'm doing, in my mind, I was like, I'm doing everything right. I am full on 100% in church, full on 100% with my school, with my career. And it's like, you can't realistically, you cannot put 100% in everything. That's only gonna, well, burn you out.
Yeah.
You have to know how to manage it properly.
And do you think that experience helped you to understand when you're feeling like you're going down the similar path?
I'd say so, but I know I do still have the tendency to push myself. But I do have typically have a better understanding, because I can feel like when like the pains start coming in a bit, I'm like, oh, okay, we're not doing that again. Pause, rest. Everything can be moved to another day, because it's never really that serious.
Yeah.
It's not that serious.
Yeah, I mean, isn't there a verse that we were talking about earlier that
Oh yeah. I don't
life
remember.
is meaningless?
The first Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 1. I think it's chapter 1, verse 1. It might be verse 2. Verse 2, sorry. Because verse 1 is the words of the teacher, son of David, king in Jerusalem. Verse 2, meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Which is such a wonderful verse to start a book with. Definitely grabs your attention. Yeah, but if you actually keep reading through the book, there's actually quite a lot. Like Ecclesiastes is considered one of the wisdom books alongside Proverbs and Job. Is it Job or Job? Job? I don't know. I feel very aware of my accent right now. But yeah, Ecclesiastes is one of those books of wisdom. So even though it starts off with that, there's actually so much to be found in it. And I found like there's actually I guess it's coming up now. There's a part in chapter 3 that I always return to, because I find like when I was talking about that time when I was burnt out and going through all those pain, the only thing on my mind was, this needs to stop. I need to get out of this. This is not who I am. Like I'm moping around because I can't do anything. I'm feeling low mood and all of that. And this is not who I am. I need to go back to being bubbly, excited, faith. But yeah, that's when I came across these verses, which starts off saying, so I'm reading from Ecclesiastes 3, verse 1. There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal, which is a lot. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. And it keeps going on with this, like there's a time for these emotions where typically like this is negative, you don't want, as well as a time for these emotions that are positive and you do want. And I guess that really hit home for is like ultimately there is a purpose even to those times where we're in low mood, where we're feeling burnt out, where we're like, why am I even in this situation? But there's always something, especially as Christians, there's something that God is trying to show you in those moments. Just have to actually be aware and stop trying to run from it because you don't want to be in it.
Yeah, I think it's important to listen to your body, guys. It gives you signs, it tells you, because it is the temple of God, so it's important to listen, because spiritually, mentally, physically, it's all happening around here. So like you gotta really listen. And I similarly went through something, just like you did. But when I was in hospital, I was like, right, I need to get back to it because there's no one that can do what I can do. That was literally my mindset. And literally, I just felt like a slap on my face. And God was like, excuse me? What do you mean? Like, and I was like, oh yeah, actually, calm down. Like there are, you can, and I think that's where like the whole thing about community steps in. Like you can depend on people. You can. Even Jesus had a group of 12.
Yeah.
Like he had a close knit. There were many others, but there was a close knit that he did depend on. Like even when he went into the Garden of Gethsemane and he was praying, he came back and he was like, guys, you can't stay up with me for 1 hour and pray. Like he expected that of them. And so that for me, it shows that having that community is so important. But also that grew over 3.5 years, like, that community, and like it will take time, but once you find them, trust that God is he's given you those people for a reason. Stop trying to do everything yourself. And that can stop being like feeling like you're being burnt out.
I think it's like, I feel like it's always so hard to be vulnerable like that. Especially when, I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, it was very like, I don't want to show that weakness. Because you're always scared, like, oh, what are people gonna think? What are they gonna do? But more often than not, that's you running your own thoughts. Because when you actually think about it, it's like, is Marilyn actually that cruel to think that about me? If for whatever reason I couldn't, this example, I do not think Marilyn is, but like you start to think, is she actually that cruel to think that way about me? No, I know her. She's someone I can go to. It's like having that trust and being able to be that open is something that we don't talk about as much, but it's something that's so important. And like we were talking about, pulling up another verse, we were talking about Galatians 6:2, which again the context is slightly different, but the verse says, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." And I've been reading a lot into like the anxieties and worries and stuff, which you guys will see in a couple weeks. But I found it interesting how there's the verse where we talk about relying on God, and that says, "Cast your burdens onto God." I don't remember where that was from. Because he can take it from you, but the most people can do is carry it for you. But the more people you share it with, the lighter your load will be, because we're all helping each other out. So it's so important to have that community to carry it, but ultimately the only person who can get rid of it is God.
Yeah.
At least that's how I interpret it.
No, but there's obviously going to people that you trust and stuff. But what if, because this is mental health in the end of the day, and what if your parents are the people that you trust, but they don't understand mental health?
Ooh.
Because I've been there, and explaining mental health to someone from their generation, especially in the Tamil community, is a very, very, very hard thing for them to understand. Because they're just like, okay, if you're going through it, pray for it, or talk to God about it, or fast, like, or attend church more, attend more Bible studies, or do this, do that. But
Okay, can I ask, have you ever gone to your parents when you've had a mental health day?
mental health day,
Like you
like
felt like the lowest,
yeah,
and you've gone to your parents, and has that been their reaction?
it's a mixture of both.
Yeah. See, that's the thing though. Sometimes I feel like we assume that is going to be the reaction.
You're right, because we assume that they don't understand.
Yeah.
We assume that they're not going to give that. They're going to give the spiritual love, but that love that we need for our flesh,
Yeah.
we feel like they're not going to give it.
Yeah.
And we get scared and we held back and we're put into that corner in our room and we're just like, oh, we're not going to deal with it. But we need to remember,
They really do know best, you know? Like, I'm not going to lie, like, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I was really going through it, and I think my dad, he came into my room, and he was like, no, I went downstairs, and I was sitting down, and I was drinking my tea, and he came over to me, and he was like, you're right, like, you look like you're thinking, and you know, when you're ready to say, oh, I'm fine, and I opened up my mouth,
and the voice cracks.
it cracked,
Voice cracks, the
and
tears
in my
start
head,
coming
I was thinking, this is not gonna go well.
Yeah.
And I just started, and he was like, oh my gosh, I just asked if you were okay, like, what's going on? And then he came over and was like, you're gonna be okay, like, you're going to be fine. And then he took me out for shopping, and you know, it was fine. It was, he knew exactly what to do.
Exactly.
But I feel like our parents are always more stronger than we make them out to be.
Yeah.
We put them in a box and we say they're not going to be able to handle this, or they're not going to be able to understand, because you're right, there have been scenarios where they haven't known.
But that's also them growing.
Yeah.
Because I know there's stages where my parents didn't understand. Like, I think in the beginning stages, they were like, but why? You're so young. Like, why do you have these thoughts?
Yeah.
And that was them at a certain time. And then, like, if I'm looking at me at this age, sorry. Got a bit too passionate a minute. But, if I'm looking at me now, and I'm looking at how my parents are reacting now, I can see their growth as well, as well as mine. I've seen how they're supporting my flesh rather than just my spirit. Because yes, my spirit, like, they need to fill my empty cup, but I feel like our flesh needs a bit of attention, and that's what we miss as Christians. Because even, like, I know it says in the valley of the shadow of death, we don't fear evil. God doesn't just abandon us in that valley. He's walking with us. And the same way, we need to do that for all of us.
Yeah.
If you're walking in the valley, we need to be there for you.
Yeah.
If Faith's walking in that valley, we need to be there for you. In the same way.
That's so wild that you say this, because literally this morning me and Faith were talking and Faith was like, I do want to talk to you guys about, but I don't want to, what did you say?
Kill the vibes.
Yeah, she was like, I don't want to kill the vibes. And I was like, we're here for the highs and the lows.
100%.
Especially for the lows. The highs are fine. We'll all be there together. But when you're you're at the lowest moment, that's when I feel like, no, you can show your real support. Like, be that, the, what do you call, cornerstone? Like,
Yeah.
That's how you also learn to trust each other
Yes.
more. Because you know who's there for you in those moments because they were there.
Yeah.
So it makes it a lot easier to then, because inevitably it's going to come again. But it makes it a lot easier than to be like, okay, I can just go straight to you now. I don't have to carry this myself.
See, but that you only realize that once you opened up.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
If you don't say it to anyone, and if you keep it all locked up within yourself, you're not going to get anywhere. You're not going to get that help. 100% you're going to get it from God, but you do need that close-knit community. You need those people to walk with you, because you need that.
I feel like that's why I'm so relieved with how far we've come in terms of mental health stigmatization. Because nowadays it's a lot easier to reach out because people view it as, it's a more normalized thing, I guess, to have mental wellness and mental health problems or concerns. So it makes it easier, like, oh yeah, I can say this because everyone's going through it. We know this now.
But is it...
Ooh.
Is it too normalized? Like, I'm gonna be honest here. I feel like sometimes people can use it as an excuse. Like, they become a victim of it instead of trying to find a solution to fight it. It's like, I have this, so I can't do that. I have this, so I can't do that. And it's like, they become a victim of it. But, like, there's this thing that my dad always says. Okay, so there's the power of life in our tongue, right? Life and death in our tongue. So if I keep saying, I'm really shy, or I'm really anxious, or I get depressed really quickly, we're putting that on ourselves. We're saying that we're going to carry that. Whereas saying, yes, I have this, but I'm still going to do it because I know the God that's within me is greater than whatever I'm going through. Instantly, there's a change. There is a change. So as Christians, are we just accepting that someone's going through mental health and not helping them find a way to go through it with God? Are we just accepting, oh, they've got anxiety, and we're just going to leave it at that because it's so normal now? Or are we doing the right things to help them?
Yeah, it's a tricky question because I feel like sometimes, for sure, depending on how severe it is, especially if someone's to the point where it's approaching an anxiety disorder, using your example, forcing them to do something that they're not comfortable with can have the complete opposite effect and just drag them down further.
Yeah.
So, but then that comes out of actually knowing the person and them knowing you. So if some random person came up to me when I'm feeling anxious and like, okay, just go do it, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna, if anything, I will get more anxious about it because now I'm aware of the fact that other people know I'm anxious and now they're trying to push me and now I'm more anxious because of that. Whereas if it's someone like, if Lily or you came up to me and were saying like, listen, we know you can do it because I know you, that would give me strength to then overcome.
Again, it's about the community.
Yeah.
It all comes back to the community, having people whom you know, whom you trust, and ultimately whom you love and who love you.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing when it comes to mental health and mental health wellness.
100%.
People you love.
Yeah.
You
You do. You didn't hear that?
What did she say?
I love you guys. So you're just leaving me hanging? Okay.
Sorry, love you too.
Marilyn's removed from the list of
Yeah,
people I
remove her.
trust.
Cancelled.
That was really quick. Can I say? Just anyway.
Quick turnover.
Okay, so yeah. Anyway, so if you feel like you're being or going to be burnt out, talk to someone that you trust, and they can pray for you, and they can help take that like burden off you. Yeah, it's not a burden. Sometimes it's just too many responsibilities that they can help take it. That's why they're there for you. So talk to someone.
Support is always there.
Yeah.
Just actually reach out. Speak
Yeah.
to a trusted adult.
Take that action.
Speak to your friends.
Yeah.
Actually talk to someone. Because once that step is done, that's like the step that's the hardest.
Yeah.
100%.
You know,
Yeah.
take a leap of faith, if I do say so myself.
She had to do it.
Had to happen at least once.
Yeah.
Come
I
on.
mean, fair.
Oh, okay. Okay, so the second point that we were going to talk about is faith and suffering can coexist.
I mean, they can.
That's buried. That's.
You sit right here. Had to.
Okay, anyway.
Gotta change Marilyn's context. Suffering.
What do we mean by that? What do
Faith
we-
and suffering coexist.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a perception, somewhat amongst non-Christians too, that there's this belief that when you become Christian, because of how people talk about it, that if all your trials are gonna go, because God will take care of it. He's taking care of you.
but I find that so hard to believe because of the Bible.
If everyone who's followed Christ has suffered in some way,
Yeah,
shape, or
exactly.
form.
So if someone actually comes into Christianity thinking it's gonna be all, what do they say? If it's gonna be all
like
just
rainbows,
Rainbows and
rainbows
butterflies.
and
You're in for a treat.
okay,
A treat.
I mean it is. You know, eternal life is a treat. Just getting
God's
there.
love, actually feeling it is great, but then because of that,
Mm.
I feel like it's almost like everything else gets juxtaposed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everything almost feels worse because you've experienced that.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
then you get into this mindset of like, oh, but I believe in God. Why is He letting me go through this? Or why is He not taking me out of this? So, like I mentioned earlier, like there's always a purpose to it.
yeah.
He doesn't take the valley of the shadow of death away. He's with you in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Elijah's known to be one of the greatest prophets. Like he's so bold, so confident.
Yeah.
And then because of a woman, the way he runs and the way he says, "Look, just take it away. I'm done. Like I want to die." You know? And God, and I love that I don't know if you've seen that meme where it's like God was like, "Take a nap. Have your, have your food, and you'll be fine." And then he got up and he was fine after that. So it's like, yes, he was suffering, but then having what he needed in that moment helped him to get up and overcome that suffering.
Which I'm also going to talk about in a couple weeks, but that ties into one of the more practical things you can do for your mental health. Because oftentimes it's, I mean, if we look at the two most talked about tend to be depression and anxiety. Anxiety is very rooted in your future. Depression tends to be more linked to your past. And sometimes the best thing you can do is just focus on your present. What do I need right now? Oh, my mouth's dry because like I'm feeling anxious. I'm heating up. Okay, go get water. Which sounds so dismissive, but at the same time, focusing on what it is you need right now can help shift your focus away from those thoughts tormenting you about your future or your past, depending on.
I love practical advice.
I
Like,
know. That was so,
cool.
yeah.
Especially about like depression and anxiety. That's like
Somebody
really
just
good-
put it into like,
perspective.
yeah, that's it.
And it's a lot of the things are honestly a lot of the tactics even in therapy is simple practical things because we want our clients, our patients to be able to remember this for once they're out. So even if it's something like like I'm heating up, okay, go splash cold water. And that's also actually on a more serious note, when we're talking about something like self-harm, oftentimes the whole thing with self-harm is that people are using self-harm as a way, again, to distract from those thoughts because now you're feeling pain and then now focus somewhere else. So instead of, we'll say, don't stop cold turkey because you can't really do that because now you've gotten used to that. So it'll be like, put ice cubes on your wrist or like dunk your hand in an ice bath and keep it there. It will get painful, but that's the point. It kind of substitutes for that and then eventually you can start to, I guess, wean yourself off. So it's always something, try to make it more practical in the now. It's like, oh, I feel like hurting myself or I feel like I'm heating up, my heart is racing. Take a breath. Like God told Elijah, take a nap, eat something, and then we can start to work on the more long-term issues.
Yeah. I mean, I think with the whole faith and suffering, obviously, it will always go back to Jesus. Like, Jesus knew what the end goal was. He knew exactly where he was going to end up. He knew what the will of the Father was. But he still had faith, even though he knew he was going to suffer. And for me, that's like, no, you know, I don't think anyone's gone through what he has gone through, knowing what he knows. But even in those times, he still cured people. He still healed people. He still was there for everyone else, even though in the time when he needed someone, there was no one there for him. So I feel like when it comes to faith and suffering, he's a perfect example to follow because he knew what he was here to do. So as Christians, if we are told to follow Jesus, we would naturally have to expect that while we have faith, we are going to still suffer. But behold, because he has overcome the world, and we're going to be okay. And I know that sounds so like cliche, but genuinely, we're going to be okay.
It's like, it's okay to not be okay, and in the long run, you will be okay.
Yeah.
They can coexist.
Yeah,
they can.
Like faith and suffering can coexist. Wow, nice bow.
sorry.
Yeah, tie up. And yeah, no, just to like wrap up, I think we just want to really emphasize how important it is to have a community.
Yeah.
And a support group. Faith, in her testimony, one of the things that really highlighted to me was that you said, yes, you had your masters all figured out and stuff, but what was really important to you was that you had a community. And I think now we're all a part of the 75-day challenge.
Yeah.
And that community in itself is something different, right, Denise?
It's amazing to have that community. I was even speaking about it yesterday to our youth pastor and Marilyn, and we were just speaking about how it's amazing to wake up every day to an encouraging message from our youth, telling us to spend time with God, telling us to be hydrated, telling us to take care of our flesh, our body, and our mind, and our spiritual mind, and feeding us with our spiritual food. It's amazing.
Covering all aspects,
every
physical,
aspect,
mental, and spiritual.
because we can't just be focusing on one. We can't just be focusing on our spiritual self and then not taking care of our flesh. And the same way, you can't be taking care of our flesh and not taking care of our spirit.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole point was, you see on TikTok, and it's always like end of December, beginning of Jan. It's like, 75-day challenge, da da da. And we were like, okay, let's do this, but how can we make it God-centered? Because it has to be. And one thing I've realized, and this was because of last week, so we cancelled the worship night last Thursday, and the reactions I got, I've never had that ever before. People are messaging me like, why can we not do it somewhere else?
I saw so many cry emojis.
And I was like, this has never
I
happened.
packed all my clothes and everything. I was ready to stay, but okay.
See, this is the thing. And I think what this challenge has done is because you spend time with God every day, you look forward to those moments where you spend it together. So it's like, okay, we have our English Bible study, but then we have our worship nights. And then recently we started our Friday 1 a.m. prayer. Like, all of these things tied up together is a community that I can see will endure things because of how long it's going to last, because the center of it is God. I've seen in the past where we've had close-knit groups and we've had really good communities, but the center wasn't God. It was based on our friendships, and it was based on the trust that was formed, which of course was from church, which is great. But now it's different, because everyone's ready because of God. So community, it's very important, and you can learn that at any age, to be honest. It isn't like when you're 15 or 18 or 21 or 25 or whatever. It's anytime you will discover that community is really important, especially when it comes to your mental health. And I think that wraps it up quite nicely. So yeah, if you guys have any concerns about mental health, or if you're going through something and you need to talk to someone anonymously, you can always message us. We're here to pray for you. And if you are suffering, take heart, because the suffering will come to an end and there will be joy.
Amen.
And you'll realize why you're going through all of it when you go to Jesus at the end of a very long life. But yeah, thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next time too.
Bye.